Welcome, Magic fans, to another Pops Deck Tech. I am Dr. Magic. I'm sitting here today with one of our local players, Dakota Hughes. Say hi, Dakota.
How's it going?
We're looking here at one of Dakota's modern decks. Call it Rhinos. It's Junk Rhinos. And it's an interesting take on junk colors. Basically, an aside from what junk used to be. So this is a kind of Dakota's take on the new junk. If you guys don't know Dakota, Dakota is one of the pillars of the Magic community here at Pops. Very accomplished regional player. We said 3 out of the last 4 Pro Tour qualifiers. What else have you done?
I have placed top 64 at a Star City Open.
Star City Open, Day 2'd, right?
Day 2.
Day 2'd. So you played a lot of Magic, you played a lot of high-level Magic. So you know, this is obviously a deck by somebody who's out there, you know, elbow deep in it and really grinding away. So what we try to do here at Pops is bring you a different deck that you don't see every week. Try to give you a different take on maybe the meta and the format. For those of you who are kind of wandering into Modern, traditionally Junk, which is black, white, and green. Okay, we don't use cons, names, and eternal formats. We're good players. It's true. Come on, Star City, get with it. So those colors, Junk was a deck born out of the old Rock decks, which was green and black. It was a control deck. Death Rate Shamans created a lot of value. When Death Rate Shamans went away, they kind of adapted, threw white in there, Lingering Souls, got Path to Exile, played a control-y type of a deck. That's not what this is.
Not even close.
Not even close. So it actually, I mean, if you look at this, it kind of resembles from like Theros Ravnica block. I mean, it's got a lot of similarities like Selesnya aggro.
Mm-hmm.
But then you throw arguably the most broken creature ever printed, right? I mean, why not?
Yeah.
So talk about how this deck came to be. How did you end up going, you know what, I'm going Junk?
Well, first, the Selesnya aggro that came from it in Standard was a creation of Brian Kibler.
Sure.
And he took it to the Pro Tour and just dominated the Dragon's Maze Pro Tour with the, you know, new Voice of Resurgence card that came out. So a few Pro Tours after that, it was Modern. And Brian Kibler and his team of guys came up with a very similar deck, but in Modern, and it was the shell that kind of bore this. They had a few extra things switched around here and there, and I just kind of tweaked the numbers and stuff, and they performed really well in a format that was, at the time, dominated with the Amulet Bloom decks and Splinter Twin, and just a bunch of stuff that didn't care what you were doing. So you were just trying to close the game out as quick as you could, and this deck just absolutely excels at that.
Great. Yeah, I mean, we saw Junk for a while when Rhino was first printed. It was a traditional kind of a Junk. They just kind of threw Rhino in because it made sense. And then all of a sudden we saw a resurgence of Jund, which just eats that deck's lunch.
Yeah.
So then when you said, hey, I'm playing Junk again, it was like, well, you know that's not a real good place. And you're like, no, I got it. And you obviously do. So let's talk about the deck. Just lots of creatures that you guys have seen in Modern before, but probably not together. Obviously, Siege Rhinos. All right, let's move on. For those of you who are tired of seeing them in Standard, get ready. They're going to be in Modern for a long time.
Very long time.
You've got 6 mana accelerators, so you got 2 Bops and 4 Hierarchs.
Yeah.
I mean, obvious Hierarchs because of the Exalted.
Yep.
And nothing better than a double Exalted bird.
Absolutely.
I mean, so this allows you ostensibly turn 3 Rhino.
Absolutely.
So
it is extremely common.
It's kind of terrifying. Turn 3, 4/5 trample, and oh by the way, let's do a 6-point life swing.
When you hit it just like right on the curve, it gets even worse because you curve out in like so many different ways that it's just terrifying no matter what you do. Like turn 1 Noble Hierarch is just the best play in this deck. for whatever reason. You feel so ahead of the game no matter what. You could have absolutely crap in your hand, and suddenly you're just like, yeah, I'm just gonna win.
Well, yeah, then sure. You know, I mean, if that's what you use to accelerate the Rhino, then when the Rhino swings, you can see it's alt the trigger. Now he's a 5-stick.
Yeah. Well, I've had games where I just turn 1 Noble Hierarch, turn 2 Kasali Pride Mage Noble Hierarch, nothing else. That's enough to terrify them because they know if anything swings, it's gonna get +3/+3. So then I'll next turn drop a Siege Rhino, and then swing in with a Kasali Pride Mage, and still have a mana left over to do whatever I want.
Doesn't seem fair.
It's not fair. Generally, that 1 mana is left for like a path on something big and scary.
Awesome. Great. Folks, if you haven't heard the term before, bolt the bird. Bolt the bird. Get it early, or don't get it at all. Some of the utility here, 2 Kasali Pride Mages, you just talked about them. Exalted.
Yep.
But the sack is really, I mean, destroying target enchantments or artifacts is in Modern extremely
it actually is one of the things you really want to find in a Tron matchup, especially early, because they're going to try and, you know, outrace you and try and slam down an Oblivion Stone to get rid of your stuff real quick. So if you have it like right on curve and it's just sitting out there, they have to hold it until they have the mana to drop it and activate it at the same time, which hopefully by the time that comes around they're already dead.
Perfect. Try to outrun them there. A Scavenging Ooze, just a Modern all-star, helps with some recursion decks. It helps stop the snappy. Target that bolt. Nah, I don't think you're going to have that bolt. So Skoos as a one of. I was like multiple Skooses, but considering what else you have in here, that's probably the right amount. 4 Voice of Resurgence.
Yes.
Talk about that card a little bit.
It is probably one of the better cards in just about any blue matchup, for the simple fact of if you land it early, they just can't really successfully counter or kill any of your creatures on your turn.
Sure.
So it's basically just a freebie all in all. It also helps with like a weird side contingency in this deck in that nothing actually dies to bolt except your dorks.
That's true. It dies, and
it dies. It gets a dude back.
Helpful against those aggro decks, especially now that Burn is looking more and more like Zoo as they've kind of converged.
It's just another card that helps you get more value than your opponent throughout the entire game as soon as it hits the table.
Awesome. One of my favorite cards ever since I played Hate Bears, Loxodon Smiter. I mean, a 4/4 body for 3 mana is awesome. Oh, by the way, you can't counter it.
Can't counter it.
Oh, by the way, that Lily, if you make me discard it,
he just comes in. I actually got somebody with that not too long ago. I had an opening hand. It was great. I had like a Noble Hierarch, a bunch of land, a Loxodon Smiter, and a Siege Rhino. Turn 1, I play the Hierarch. Their turn, they Inquisition me. I go, cool, I get a free Loxodon Smiter. They go, oh, that's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with we saw over the weekend, you know, this black or this black-white Eldrazi abomination.
The mono black one as well.
Right, you know, running a lot of that, you know, that plus Whitleaf Leech.
Yeah.
Both of them, hey, if you make me discard it, it's just coming right into play. Go to Finks. Finks is a card that normally we see in the sideboard. You have it main. Not only do you have one main, you have 4 of them main.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely necessary right now because there's so much burn and aggro in the format, and everything's trying to, you know, speed it up and just try and kill you as quick as possible. So if you can just get an early Kitchen Finks out and have it block a couple dudes, you know, gain some life off of it, and just hold you down until you suddenly have all these big creatures that they can't swing through, and you're just putting on the pressure so quick.
It fits in with what you're talking about before, like voice, it giving you more value. Loxodon Smiter, they waste a card to basically give you a creature. Voice, they kill it, or they have to kill it twice, or they can't counter things. Finks got to kill it twice, oh, by the way, I get some life.
Yeah.
So you can bolt it to get it out of the way, it's still going to be there, or I can throw it in the way. I will kill your Goblin Guide, and I'll still have my Bro.
Yeah.
Which will probably kill your next Goblin Guide, because, you know, even the 1/1 counter, it's a 2/1.
Fingers crossed.
So, either way, I'm getting some life out of it, and I get a blocker. Whitleaf Leech tops out the curve along with Rhino at 4. Yeah, I mean, it seems to be good synergy, especially with a couple of Exalted. you know, the Rhino and the Smiter and the voice.
Yeah.
You know, that's a 4/4. That's a 6/6. That's a 6/7. Exalted a couple of times.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see where you're going here.
Yep. It's definitely the best one to just drop like as the last thing, because suddenly, you know, they're like, all right, I can take one more hit and I'll be fine, and then you suddenly drop this Whitley Fleege and they're like, well, I'm just dead here.
Yeah, because in a lot of cases, most of the cases with the stuff you're swinging in, it's +2/+2. Even helps the Finks.
Yep.
So, and the Pride Mages, if you end up on that plan where you're talking about where you're just exalted beatdowns with a couple of Hierarchs and a Pride Mage, well, now it's +3/+3. He's a 5/5. Now he's a 7/7. So, all of your creatures here interact very, very well together. And I really like the creature base. Looks sweet. Deck is sweet.
It is. It is definitely sweet.
It is definitely tier 1 in the Midwest, and I think very soon make it tier 1 in the East Coast.
I'm hoping.
Okay, so we've looked at the creatures. Let's take a quick look now at some of the non-creature spells and what you're doing with those. Alright, so we moved on from the creatures into the spells. A lot of creatures in the deck, so not a lot of spells. The ones you have picked here seem to be, I mean, they seem to kind of be the obvious, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Abrupt Decay, great removal spell, can't be countered again. Lingering Souls, well, you could counter it if you really want to. But
well, let's play it again.
Yeah, right. We're talking about you know, value 2-for-1ing, which is really the way to win in Modern. It's like Hooligan's Command is so good.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why Snapcaster is so good. Right? I get to cast the spell twice, so I'm 2-for-1ing. And Path to Exile, best removal spell. I mean, especially now that you know, Tron has tried to do the Void Winnower thing.
Yeah.
Right? Just shut, you know, my even path it. So Path, great spell. 3 of each. Probably chose them just because that's kind of the space you had.
It started out like 4 of a bunch of different things, and I kind of just trimmed them down as I realized they didn't do as much as they could or should, and I just realized I wanted other things in there.
So I tried to jam a creature then.
Yeah, well, like, it started out with 4 Lingering Souls, and I was like, I'd rather have a 3rd Luxodon Smiter, so I just cut one, and it's so far worked out great. It only ever had 3 Abrupt Decays. I didn't want any more than that. I started off with 4 Paths, and I cut one for that Sorin right there.
Which we're going to talk about. Planeswalkers. We've got a Sorin. You talked about you know, the kind of the stabilizing of the Sorin there. I mean, we've got the main deck. Finks, you know, help you. Sorin obviously stabilizes. Plus, if you do have to go wide, you know,
He's definitely helpful with that.
Got the souls, and now they're flying, and they're 2/1s, and but the Garooks are. Well, this is a Dakota-ism. This is a little spice.
That is. It's definitely all me.
I see Garooks, but I don't ever see this one. Primal Hunter seems out of the curve. Seems. I don't see it coming.
It's utterly ridiculous the fact that I ever thought to put them in there. But it started off with I wanted to curve out at a 5-drop. I wanted something that was like a little resilient, but you know, able to be easily cast. And most of the stuff is green, so I have enough green sources to easily cast it on turn 4 if necessary with a Hierarch or whatever. But the reason I really put this Garuk in is because of its -3 ability to draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures I control. It started off like the first game I ever tried it. I, you know, got it. I was like, all right, we're great. So it got to kind of a grindy spot in the game. I was playing against Jund. You know, they had killed one bunch of my creatures, whatever. So I swung with this Rhino, like on an Exalted trigger. I was like, all right, so it's 5. So I dropped this Garuk, minus it, draw 5 cards, and suddenly I'm refueled back in the game and just way far ahead.
So it's like a 5-drop, draw some cards.
Yeah, it can basically be a Harmonize at times, but I prefer it to stick around a little more. So sometimes I'll just pick it up and, you know, get a few beasts out, suddenly swing with one, draw some cards. It keeps you going if you get to it.
So if we can get a Rhino out and a Whitley Fleege and double Exalted triggers, now we're drawing like 80.
Oh yeah, and yes, that has happened.
All right, so the worst. What's worse than having an Exalted Rhino? Having having a couple of them. I understand you can't swing with more than one exalted Rhino and get the exalted, but that just seems...
Just dropping the second Rhino is enough normally. They're just like, alright, we're done here.
It seems utterly ridiculous. Well, those are seem like great spells to complement what you have. Let's take a quick look at the land base, and we'll get you out of here. Alright, Dakota, we're going to take a quick look at the land base you have. You said it's not necessarily greedy, but a lot of times you end up shocking yourself to be on curve.
Yep.
So we see 4 basic lands.
Yep.
2 forests, a plains, and a swamp. Just enough to...
Just enough to help out against any blood moons that might, catch you off guard before you get an abrupt decay out there.
Yeah. And enough to go get something off of a path too. So.
Oh, absolutely.
We see 6 shocks, 2 of each color.
Yep.
2 temple gardens, 2 overgrown tombs, 2 godless shrines. I would have thought we would have maybe like a 3rd temple garden and not as many godless shrines, but just because you tend to be heavy green. But
I kind of use my Stirring Wildwoods for the extras.
Okay.
I mean, you can't fetch for them, but if you have 2 temple gardens out, you should be okay with the rest of your lands.
Got it. And you do have 4 of the green-white fetches, 4 of the heaths.
Yep.
2 catacombs and marsh flats.
Yep.
Good. 2 of the Stirring Wildwoods, which you had talked about. Tap for either. And a nice body, too.
Yes, and especially if you already have a Whitleaf Leech out, it does help with that little synergy.
Because it is green and white.
It is green and white.
So that's a nice little 5/6 with reach. Seems okay. Seems okay. And then the 2 Gavity Townships. Gavity Townships, were kind of a staple in Hate Bears. Is kind of how you push the last little bit across. Similar here for you?
Yeah, they're definitely like just another thing that can help. If you have like a mana flood and you have a bunch of little dudes, suddenly they're a bunch of not so little dudes.
Throw some counters on those Lingering Souls. The other thing that people miss sometimes is the interaction with that and Kitchen Finks.
Yes.
Which is...
well, when Kitchen Finks dies, his Persist has him come back with a -1/-1 counter. So if you activate a Gavany Township, it puts a +1/+1 counter on it, which instead of actually putting one of both on there, the rules just say they just kind of both go away and it's suddenly where it was before.
Right. Without getting too deep into the rules section of that, they occupy the same layer, and so they cancel each other out, which means the Finks is good to go all over again.
Yep, it's good to die all over again so you can just keep going.
We're all about killing our things with the utmost value here. Altogether, looks like a very sweet deck and a lot of fun to play.
Yep.
Good matchups for you, bad matchups for you. What have you found?
Okay, good matchups. Jund, absolutely. Burn and other similar aggro matchups, because your creatures just get out of hand just about at the same speed, except yours are a lot bigger.
Sure, and you have a lot more resilience.
Yes.
That Jund matchup is, I'm going to 1-for-1 your creatures and have but here you can't.
Yeah, you can't bolt my guys. So you have 4 dead cards in your deck already. Unless you're way ahead, you're not gonna ever get there.
Right, and oh, by the way, they close it out with a Liliana. Free Smiter. Okay, so those are the good matchups. Bad matchups.
Tron is fairly bad, but not completely unplayable. If you have like your sideboard, which I have some Stony Silence and some Beast Withins, I can like rip their lands and get rid of most of their artifact hate, which is really the worst problem for you, those and Wormcoil engines, but you have paths and other exile effects to help with that. I haven't actually played too much of the Amiel Blue matchup. The only few times I have, I did beat them pretty fairly, but I just kind of pathed their guy once it got out there and then raced them to the end. As far as absolutely bad, I haven't yet found one, but I know there's definitely some out there. I just haven't found them yet.
Okay. And we're going to take this on the road and find out what those bad matchups are. Hopefully you don't find any.
Oh yeah, I was supposed to go to Cincinnati this weekend, and I was really going to find out, but I guess not.
Didn't work out, but there's another GP right around the corner for you. Well, listen, Dakota, appreciate you stopping by, showing us your deck, Junk Rhinos, and The deck looks very, very sweet. Looks like a lot of fun, a lot of great synergies, and I like it as an aggro deck that's not really like your traditional aggro deck.
It's definitely not. I like it a lot more than traditional aggro.
Yeah, I don't like,
I don't burn out.
Don't burn out. Trying to get there, and it's kind of a little flavor of Hate Bears, which was one of my first decks that I loved, and a little bit of that Selesnya aggro with the Rhinos thrown in the mix. So I think it's awesome. Great. Again, thanks for bringing this by and talking Deck Tech with us. Hope you folks will continue to tune in to popscultureshoppe.com and our YouTube channel. Be sure to go on there and check out our blogs as well as any of our videos. And you can also go on Patreon and support what we do and help us continue to bring you great content. This has been Dr. Magic. Yo, folks, thanks for watching. See you next time across the table.